episode of Cardinal Film Fights. I'm your host and judge, Mark Rollins. Today, I'm dressed as Fix-It Felix Jr. from Wreck-It Ralph for the Halloween episode. Today, we have Haley, Brandon, and Skylar. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but before we get to that, shout out to Paige, who's on the timer, and Belle, and shout out to Vaughn, who's doing our checking of the facts. And the falses, but mostly the facts. So today, we have Skylar, Brandon, and Haley. As I mentioned, I'm going to have them introduce themselves, starting with Skylar, and then Brandon, and then Haley.
Hello, y'all. My name is Skylar Wilson. I am in telecommunications, digital video productions, and I'm a senior. And after this, I'm going to continue to disappoint my parents as well.
My name is Brandon Carson. I'm a sophomore, journalism major, theater minor.
My name is Haley, and I am a telecommunications video production major and a sophomore.
Yee.
So, for those of you who have never tuned in before, this is how it's going to work. We're going to start off with 60-second introductions into which our contestants give the answers to their question and explain why they picked it. Then we go straight into a 5-minute form in which they tear each other apart, build themselves up, and finish it off with a 30-second conclusion that wraps up all their arguments in a nice, neat little bow. So without further ado, let's get into the question. We all know cliches. The word cliche has kind of become a cliche. And we all know horror, because it's scary. And we all know worst, because that's what life is. So when you have the worst horror cliche, what do you get? Let's start with Haley, then we'll go Skylar, and finish off with Brandon.
All right, there is nothing that makes me more upset than when there is a great chase scene about to happen in a horror film and the victim is so clueless not to just run out the front door, go searching for help, but instead, just do the reasonable thing and run upstairs where you're going to be trapped and have to jump out of a window and break all of your limbs if you want to get away. I have some examples of this, such as in Scream, when Sydney runs up the stairs, could have run out the front door. And of course, in Halloween, Laurie runs up the stairs after going out of a different house, decides to go in a different house to run upstairs. And Nancy in Nightmare Before Elm Street runs up the stairs, and those stairs just turn into quicksand. So that is what running up the stairs gets you. So you just shouldn't do it in a horror movie, or you are bound to just get trapped by the killer.
And Skylar.
Horror movies should be treated like sex. Don't blow your load in 5 minutes into the movie. So, how do horror movies do this? Easy. Jump scares. Love them or hate them, but I fucking hate them. Legit. Recently, horror movies have now misused jump scares as being provided as a cheap scare for the audience. Legit, most horror movies nowadays, when the jump scare happens, there's nothing scary about it. It's like, especially in found footage movie, where a guy is like turning around and it's like, oh my God, Dave, what are you doing over there? It's like, I don't know. I'm just here. Provide a jump scare. It's just shit like that just ruins a horror movie, and it makes the audience grow numb as the movie progresses, where there's actual legit scares, the audience don't care about it because they have so many jump scares from the beginning and just like, oh, that's kind of creepy. But yeah, jump scares nowadays have stale what horror movies should be.
And Brandon.
Okay, so my cliche is kind of specific and kind of on the jump scare side, but not really, and it is loud noises that indicate to the audience that something should be scary when it really isn't. So I noticed this in a lot of modern horror movies. Recently, The Nun, I just saw, which there are a lot of jump scares in that movie, but when it's just, I think the best scares are when it just shows something, and it's just really creepy. No music, no nothing. But The Nun didn't do that. The Nun just had a loud bang, a loud noise, and then it's supposed to indicate that something is scary to people when it really isn't. There was another movie that came out a couple of years ago called The Forest, where someone went into the suicide forests in Japan, and there were like these zombie things, and whenever it showed that, loud music, loud noises, when they really weren't that scary.
All right. Let's go into our 5-minute forum.
Sweet. Is The Forest the video of Jake Paul?
No.
Sorry, I gotta make the joke.
No.
Okay, so on to the debate now. So, jump scares jump scares really just legit ruin the horror aspect of the movie, where it just every time you see a jump scare, there's 9 times out of 10, it's nothing scary about it. It's just like it's either like a cat just jumps out somewhere, or it's the drunken college buddies is like Dave's like, "What's up, y'all?" And it's just like what's so scary about that? But then when it shows something scary, like at the climax of the film, the audience is just like, "Oh, that's creepy." That's it. Like there's nothing. Like there's no substance to these most of the time these jump scares, and they're also just a cheap way to scare the audience, and cheap is shit. So,
Well, I don't know. I mean, there are some pretty good jump scares sometimes.
I'm not going to deny that, but it's just like most of the times, like most of these jump scares that we've seen, especially in found footage films and especially paranormal activity, is the worst case of them.
I think that unfortunately some people need jump scares and they need loud noises to realize that something scary is happening.
But even then, with your going up the stairs thing, I feel like that just kind of like died down as film's been coming out recently, like more horror films. Like nowadays, just like they don't go up the stairs as like people just realize like, okay, they're going up the stairs. I mean, granted though,
A lot of one-story
it's kind of like a big thing during like the 90s and the 80s. Those Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, just any of the slasher films. But like as time progresses, I think like audiences is like had enough of it, and film directors are like, okay, well, just drop this climb,
I guess
go upstairs.
I feel like it being the worst horror cliche is just the fact that it was so unnecessary. Even if it isn't around as much anymore, it's like jump scares and loud noises actually have certain circumstances when they need to be necessary, but running up the stairs was never necessary and never will be.
But even then, like jump scares is like it's still prevalent to today's horror films, and like I said before, it's like most of these directors are just misusing jump scares where it could be used effectively.
Let's hear more about the sounds.
Oh well.
Let's hear more about the what sentence?
Well, okay. It's just you see movies like have you guys ever seen The Witch?
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Yeah.
Terrifying. And just in the visuals and the music, not in there's no jump scares in it. There's no super loud bangs that just startle people. It's all about the imagery. It's all about the characters, and that's what I think the best horror movies have, even if they have staircases. If those movies have great characters and not, these loud noises that are just supposed to say, hey, this is scary, jump, or be startled. Like The Witch, the ones that get under your skin and the ones that are quiet and subdued are usually the best. Yeah, I don't know. That's just what I think.
So basically, what I'm gathering from that is like when directors like purposely uses like audio music for a scene where it just doesn't need.
It just doesn't need.
Okay.
It just doesn't need a loud noise. It could just be a weird-looking creature just sitting there, and maybe have some like screeching violins. But like I said, it's just like so on the verge of a jump scare that I can't really say anything else.
I see where you're going with it. I see where you're going with it, and again, like this is something like I feel like most like very popular films like The Witch, Hereditary.
Hereditary is one.
Alien, and the Alien, the director's cut, actually does this as well with showing they showed the alien for the first time. Like it was like legit. There was like nothing. Like there's like no sound effects or anything. But
Yes.
but I feel like nowadays, like as horror movies are getting like better and better and better, they're just kind of like pulling back on the adding like score music to these scenes you were saying here. But like again, like I'm saying, like jump scares, love them or hate them. I hate them. I'm pretty sure everyone else here hates them because it's just being misused over and over and over again. And when they're used properly, The Conjuring, especially The Conjuring, they can be genuinely scary because there is something to be scared of. Like when you see, like when the freaking like the closet scene where there was like a demon like on top of the closet. That was like a legit jump scare. Like there was like something to be fearful of. But found footage is like, again, like I'm saying, it's like when there's a jump scare that happens, it's mostly just nothing to be scared of. It's just a cat or just a drunken college buddy or just some kid just walking out at night. Again, nothing scary about that.
We'll go to our 30-second conclusions. We're going to start with Skylar, then Brandon, then Haley.
Again, I'm not saying all jump scares are bad, but it's just like most of the times now, jump scares are being misused by Hollywood directors. It's providing a cheap scare for the audiences, which it really shouldn't be. And when they continue doing this, they ruin the horror aspect of the film. They make the audience numb to the legit scary parts of the film. And like I said, found footage is very guilty of this. And The Nun, love it or hate it, it's also guilty of it by buying cheap jump scares.
So I just think, like, I'm going to bring up The Witch again. The Witch has, some really scary imagery, but it's not because of the loud music or the loud noises. It's because of the imagery and the characters and the creepy stuff. And those are the kinds of horror movies that stick with you. Even if they have jump scares, they could still be scary, but we don't need, like, noise to indicate that it's scary to make us jump.
Okay, so I feel that running up the stairs just really isn't necessary. I mean, I watch movies with loud noises and jump scares, and even though running up the stairs is not as recent, every time I rewatch these movies, I just look at the character just dumbfounded and yell at the screen, "What are you doing?" But I never do that to other things because I just don't think they're as much of as cliches